Okay, we're going to move on with our agenda then, and I'm going to introduce Tiffany. Tiffany Speir.
Yes, good morning.
So I'm pleased to have you come and join us as well this morning and to share all of your knowledge and keep us updated and posted as to what's going on with your department.
Thanks. I'm actually here to pick your brains. And so first of all, I want to ask Brian, is this meeting scheduled to end at 8:30?
Yes.
Yeah. Officially 9.
Oh, 9.
When
Okay.
it's on Zoom, we take it to 8:30. We don't take it all the way to
Okay.
9. But
Got it. I'm just trying to gauge how much I need to go into detail about things. So my name is Tiffany Speir. I'm the Long Range and Strategic Planning Manager within Lakewood's Community and Economic Development Department, which is a long title to say that there are a lot of different hats that I'm wearing these days. And one of them is I am the staff lead regarding the City of Lakewood's American Rescue Plan Act funding program. Those of you who tracked this last year, there was the CARES Act that was passed by the federal government in 2020 to try to react to the economic and social service and other needs that were stemming from what COVID-19 did to the economy, but also did to people. And we are now in 2021 where a new act has been passed called the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. And the city is now understanding the amount of money it's going to have coming through that program, how much is going to other entities, county, state, or federal entities that will be addressing some of the issues that the city tried to do on its own last year. And then also looking ahead, how can the dollars be spent in a way that best leverages them for not only the most effect right now, but what could be a mid or even a long-term benefit for these funds to having come to Lakewood. So what I'm going to do is present some facts and figures to you and then ask you, and this could be you individually and the entities or organizations you represent, or if the group wants to try to come to consensus and say these are our thoughts as a group, I totally leave it up to you. We are seeking your feedback on how the city should spend these dollars. This is part of the community engagement program that the City Council has asked that we do. And so I will not only be with you today, but I'll be reaching out to all of the city's boards and commissions over the next couple of months. And then we're also going to do some additional stakeholder outreach. So you may well see some additional invitations from me over time here to, again, ask these questions of the community so the City Council feels like it has a full, well-rounded bunch of feedback that they can use as a basis for the priorities they ultimately set. So with all of that as a preamble, I'm going to share my screen and walk you through a little bit of information and then again ask your opinion. Oops, there we go. So the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, was passed, I want to say in March, and we're here at the beginning of June. And so a lot has happened since the act was passed and the president signed it. What we have found out is that Lakewood is getting almost $14 million. And they are distributing the dollars in two pieces. So this year, the city qualifies for almost $7 million, and then a year from when those dollars are received, the city can ask for its second half. The city has until the end of 2024 to say this is how we're going to spend our money, and then the money actually has to be spent by 2026, the end of the year. So we essentially have a 4.5-year time span where the city can identify how it's going to spend these funds, and then by the end of 2026, again, things need to be spent. This is a somewhat complicated slide, but what it is explaining is on the side of your screen, and I apologize for the sideways font here, all of the state and local funds out of this act total about $362 billion. When that's broken down into how that's distributed to the various levels of government, you end up here with metropolitan cities. Lakewood is considered one because it has a population of over 50,000. we are getting a share of this $45+ billion in direct aid. So the city is able to ask the Department of Treasury directly. These are the funds that will be divided in half this year and next year for the city to have. There are 4 general areas that the Act says the city can spend dollars on. So first is the public health emergency, and also negative economic impacts from COVID. So this is where you'll see assistance to households and individuals, be they loans or grants, small businesses and nonprofits, and then impacted industries. So particularly hard hit last year was the entertainment, tourism, and travel and hospitality area. When people were shut down, they obviously weren't going on trips. And then the entertainment industry, people weren't spending money at the movie theater or doing other sorts of fun things. We had other stuff on our mind. Responding to workers performing essential work. So if there was a group, or actually, this is one of the things that the city did last year, was looking at how some of the CARES Act funds that came to the city could be spent to help cover the costs that the police department, the fire department, and other groups such as that, the public safety and the public health folks, were out in the middle of the pandemic doing their jobs. And so this is dealing with providing premium pay for those people. Third, the provision of the government services. So one of the things that happened last year was tax revenue and other sources of revenue dropped for the city as well as other governments because of the way people were living and working. And so this is now saying, government, you are able to take some of these dollars and replenish those sources of funds for the years 20, 21, 22, and 23 in order to make sure that you have a healthy functioning local government so you can in turn serve the people who live and work in your community. And then the fourth is necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. And this is a little bit more complicated to try to explain, but long story short, looking at, in particular, what are called qualified census tracts, or areas that were particularly hard hit by COVID. These are investments that the government has said would be a good way to spend your one-time monies to deal with water systems, sewer systems, or expanding broadband to areas that may not have it now. In March, the City Council held a retreat, and one of the things they were talking about was ARPA, and they came up with some policy guidance for anything that happens with the funds. First of all, in the Act itself, but also by desire at the City Council level, is that ARPA, excuse me, got a little bit of allergies going on, is only to be used for one-time costs, meaning where the intent here is not that ongoing programs or ongoing employee costs or whatever it is where you would spend the money. It's on one-time, kind of biggest bang for your buck dollars. Secondly, that there's time to spend these funds. As I just mentioned, this is a 3 to 5 year process. And so the City Council really wanted to make sure that the community had an opportunity, and the community here is broadly defined. So subject matter experts, professional experts, business owners and representatives, residents themselves, human service providers, nonprofits are all able to provide their information to the City Council before the city says, this is how we're going to spend the money in detail. And then the last thing is that every year the City Council sets aside 1% of the general fund to be used for human services programs and expenditures. And the council said these are also going to be considered general fund dollars. So we want to be spending 1% of these funds in 22 and 23 also for human services expenditures. So again, it's the one-time type of expenditures, but they wanted to dedicate those dollars first and foremost to where the community needed it most. What we are doing to help the City Council gather that information is a community engagement program. And as I said, you guys are first on the list. We're reaching out to stakeholders, partners, and others, which includes you this morning. We are talking on a regular basis with other local governments, so cities and county, and looking to where we might be able to collaborate and leverage funding with regional effort. There's going to be presentations and other outreach at Coffee with the Mayor. Hopefully, we're including information in city communications, the Connections magazine, as well as other social media, Facebook and websites and other such things. There's going to be a quote open house. It might be something virtual given the world we're still living in, but we're going to be asking the general public for their ideas as well. And then we'll be looking at things like the farmers markets, which are now going on, and the summer concert series to be able to provide information and then also seek information back from people who are attending those things. This late summer into fall, we're going to be talking to the city council again. We'll be bringing back the information that are gathered from all of these various groups and people, and then they will use that again to decide how they spend the money come this fall. So what are things that can be done in response to COVID-19? This is a lot of detail. I'm not going to go into it word for word, but dealing with the health of the community, figuring out how to expand services and structures. Like, for instance, LASA is looking to expand its structure, its homeless services, and its homeless shelter. That's maybe a place where the city would spend some money. But it's also things like improving the ventilation systems in congregate settings. So churches, schools, healthcare facilities, maybe City Hall itself, and then capital investments in facilities as well. So public hospitals or public buildings, making changes there to, again, make things safe, not only right now, but into the future. Assistance to households, food, rent and mortgage assistance, counseling and legal aid regarding eviction or the threat of homelessness, direct cash assistance, other things such as home repairs, weatherization, or even burials, unfortunately, are common enough now that that's something that's being mentioned in the Act. Internet access, so that goes back to that broadband idea, and then job training. So if someone was laid off because of COVID last year and they need to figure out where they're going to go next with their career, the ability to be able to train them up at little or no cost to them. Assistance to small business and nonprofits. So some of this happened last year under the CARES Act. This is ideas of, again, loans or grants to businesses, either through entities such as the Chamber of Commerce or directly from the city. Some of that is just to keep the doors open or to pay employees, but others might be changes similar to those public facilities, where if a business needs to restructure its offices or its factory or whatever it is, and also things like making sure that they have COVID vaccination or testing materials over time. And then technical assistance or counseling for businesses as well. Government services, what could the city be using the funds for? There's quite a list here, but some infrastructure, so maybe improving a road or something in an area that's been particularly hardest hit. Modernizing cybersecurity, health services, school or educational services. Is there a partnership that could be with the public school district or colleges or universities within the city? And then other public safety services. One of the things the city did last year was provide support to West Pierce Fire and Rescue. Since they were so constantly exposed to COVID, we helped bring their facilities up to speed with bipolar, ultraviolet, I will say disinfecting, but cleaning of the air in their own buildings, so that when people came back from the field, they weren't constantly having to go into quarantine in order to avoid maybe infecting other people. So necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband. I mentioned this before, is kind of complicated to explain, but this is one where there's a wide variety of things that can be done for a water system, the sewer system, or broadband expansion. And so there are things that the city is looking at doing here that might qualify. We're not sure exactly how the city may be able to use this, but it is an option for jurisdictions across the country. But where I wanted to maybe get some of your feedback anything you can say, of course, but where we're maybe looking for some more detailed comment is where ARPA can be used to serve, quote, hardest hit communities. These are low income, socially vulnerable, people with economic inequities historically, or health inequities historically, populations and households in certain parts of the city qualify as a hardest hit community, and I'll explain that in a moment. But the services that can be provided here are health and social determinants of health, or things like you live next to a highway, you may have some issues with breathing and your health because of the output from the vehicles that are on that highway all the time. Or if you lived in Federal Way next to the airport, for instance, or SeaTac next to the airport, you may experience that as well. Investments in housing and neighborhoods. So again, homeless services, homeless avoidance, I'll call it. Developing affordable housing, providing vouchers, etc. Educational disparities, newer expanded early learning services, providing sources to high poverty school districts, and then promoting healthy childhood environments, newer expanded high quality childcare, maybe visiting programs for families with young children. So again, all of these things can be particularly targeted to those hardest hit communities. And Lakewood has, quote, 4 qualified census tracts is what they're called by the Housing and Urban Development Department at the federal level. And these are down here in Tillicum, and then across the highway in Woodbrook, in the Springbrook area, north of I-5 in Lakeview, and then to the northeast area of the city, Monte Vista. So within these areas, expenditures on the things that I was just mentioning are going to be presumed eligible for ARPA dollars. So if there's ideas germinating in your mind, perhaps about how the city should spend some money, these are some areas that have some additional support through ARPA possible, but certainly things could be happening anywhere in the city with these funds. Just a note, the CARES Act last year was really kind of an emergency turnaround to deal with the problems at the moment. Now that there's been a little more time for the federal government to figure out how it might spend dollars, they already have allocated through ARPA billions of dollars for homeowner, renter, and homeless people with rental assistance, mortgage and utility assistance, and also counseling and those types of things. And with the home program at the federal level, there's also been $5 billion allocated for shelter capacity, short-term assistance. And so whereas last year there was a lot of concentration by Lakewood on rental and mortgage assistance, just know that that is now being handled much better at the federal and at the state level than it had been. So there may be opportunity for Lakewood to spend the ARPA funds in a different way. Pierce County has also allocated originally at a really quick turnaround some of its funds as well. And just very quickly, there's money going to food banks, to youth diversion and summer programs, financial coaching, domestic violence services, comprehensive life resource and homeless services, graduate Tacoma. So things that the city may have spent money on last year now again are being picked up potentially by other entities. Some additional ways that Pierce County is spending ARPA, helping with business assistance, grants and events where there's outreach to help support businesses, summer job programs, and workforce development as well. Community collaboration, which is another group that Brian Humphreys leads staff for, has been reaching out to the people that they represent and bringing information back to Brian and the city over the last year. And long story short, Brian can certainly correct me if I get this wrong, but what community collaboration has reported is that the human services funding strategies that the council ultimately approves are correct. And they also support looking at workforce development and youth mental health. The youth, of course, have been really hard hit through COVID because their world has just been turned upside down, being pulled away from the usual school experience and that socialization, as well as what's going on with their parents. But community services and Brian in particular has been working with the community on these issues for a long time. And so that is going to be leveraged and provided to the city council as well as part of recommendations about how to spend these funds. Very quickly, the city council came up with some initial ideas. Please don't limit yourself to thinking about these if there's something you feel the money should be spent on. But expanding human services, mental health, drug and alcohol dependency, and financial counseling services, youth employment, coming up with a summer program. I know Mary Dodsworth is actually working on this right now for this summer in Lakewood. Continuing some rental and mortgage assistance, serving the businesses in ways such as training them to access all of those federal and state and county resources that are out there. So being kind of a first step in their navigation of how to take advantage of the ARPA funds. Helping with the Veteran Homeless Resource Center that's being talked about for this area that would serve Pierce County. Supporting LAHSA. Maintaining existing affordable housing, so working with agencies such as Habitat for Humanity, Rebuilding Together South Sound, and also expanding perhaps the current program that the city has for senior or low-income housing improvements, such as installation of roofs or ramps or other things at cities. And then some improvements at City Hall that goes back to that idea of making those buildings safe for use over time, because as sad as it is to say, COVID's going to be back. It's not a one-time thing, so we have to be ready for that in future cycles. So here we come to the meat of it after all of that. We're looking for what you think ARPA funds should be spent on. And again, I put these 3 areas on, but what we're hoping is kind of a popcorn, what sticks to the wall kind of discussion, free form, what you think where the greatest needs are, where these funds can and should be spent. So I'm going to stop sharing so Brian or the chair can take you through this discussion. And by all means, it's, you know, asking you off the cuff right now, but if there's thoughts that you may have as we leave this meeting and something pops in your mind, please feel free to reach out to Brian or to me at the city. We're happy to take any of that information whenever it might come to you. So again, I'll stop sharing and leave it back to you.
Tiffany, you gave us a huge apple to chew on.
I know. And I did it very quickly. So please, if there's questions or clarification you need, let me know.
Yeah. I think I'll let Brian go ahead and facilitate this since he's been working on it already.
Well, I'm going to show you one slide from, so I facilitated this conversation with the Community Services Advisory Board a couple of weeks ago, and basically said what Tiffany just said, that, you know, none of that information is new to us. We have been having this conversation with the community for 2 years. We know what the needs are. We know the existing needs have been exacerbated. There's not a bunch of new needs. So let's double down and continue to invest in the work that we were already building momentum for. So this slide is kind of the visualization that we used with Community Services Advisory Board to facilitate this discussion, and basically said, hey, these are kind of the 2 major components other than the community collaboration of human services. Over here, we have the human services funding, which has these 5 funding areas. And then based on the community engagement we've been doing and trying to figure out where the gaps are for children, youth, and families to thrive, we know the biggest gaps are family-focused workforce development, which is our contribution to the affordable housing homelessness prevention problem, and then youth mental health. So that's why these are the Lakewood's Promise strategic initiatives. So Community Services Advisory Board is actually going to preemptively make a recommendation to council next week and say, hey, to the degree, you know, a lot of money is going to be flying around, but to the degree that you want to put 1% towards the human services, adding it to the human services funding, we strongly recommend that you invest that in the Lakewood's Promise strategic initiatives. And then Community Services Advisory Board with this advisory board would take some time to kind of catalog what the options are for councils to consider. But we already have initiatives that we're doing, right? So we have this workforce development partnership of Lakewood's Promise partners doing these right now, doing these career employment fairs. I would love to, and I had for a while hoped to find funding to get a workforce development partner to take this kind of off of my plate and grow it. So that's one area. And then we've talked about Give 6 here quite a bit as kind of the major youth mental health initiative we would like to support. So yeah, that's basically what I recommended. Let's just keep doing what we're already doing.
Well, that sounds like a good plan. How about comments from the rest of the members on the board? I agree. You know, we have started some really outstanding programs, and I think that we should continue to support them any way we can.
I agree with staying focused so that we don't kind of get off on a tangent that is not sustainable. Let's emphasize and sustain the things that we're already looking towards. Obviously, I have a vested interest in youth mental health support. So yeah, I definitely say we stay the course.
Andy, you're unmuted. Go for it.
Totally agree. I mean, it's wonderful to see that what we've been doing for the past number of years is forming the basis of a strategic plan going forward. It's just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have
this-
any other
okay.
comments? Yeah, I think I think that we are on a firm ground here with what we have already begun. And like Ron said, let's stay focused and keep going.
Yeah, this community engagement process is going to happen for the next 2 months. So and things are going to change this summer, right? But I think the changes that we're going to see this summer are only going to put more emphasis. Like eventually when the eviction moratorium ends, we have to have already been talking about workforce development and our contribution to that problem as that problem gets worse. And then youth mental health as things come back, and Ron was talking about, you know, there's going to be a transition period when things do open up. So we're going to have both of our strategic initiatives be emphasized even more as things kind of go back to quote unquote normal. So yeah, but that being said, we have 2 months to have this process. If needs change, if there's a new need we should be investing in, especially from a promise perspective, or if something else, maybe one of the other funding priority areas becomes something that is suddenly critical, please let me know and or engage in the rest of the process. Like Tiffany said, you'll see invitations for that, and we'll be representing those things as best we can. But yeah.
And as I said, if there's a light bulb that happens to pop on over your head here just at any time, please feel free to reach out to Brian and he can send along any information or ideas you have or references to other groups that we should be engaging with. As I said, we're going to be reaching out to all of the city's boards and commissions and all of their members, but if there's a community organization you feel should provide feedback, please, we'd love to get that contact information from you. Otherwise, I'll say thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the work that you guys have obviously been doing for a long time. Please keep doing it. The City Council and the city as a whole appreciates and benefits from what you do. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, I'd like to hear from our Youth Council if we still have time for that.
I don't think we have any youth with us this morning.
Okay. All right. Maybe we can get a report from them in some other way. Have they had their last council meeting yet?
I am not sure, but I can go get one for you and send it out to the group.
You know, perhaps they can give us a summary of, you know, how things have gone this year and what they have accomplished, so that we get an update from them. I want to be sure we keep them in the loop. Do we have any board member updates this morning?
I'm going to go ahead and start because I do have to sneak out. But I did just submit my resignation for the board. It's been a great 2.5 years with you all, and just recognizing where I'm at and what I'm doing. And my term is ending in October-ish from my knowledge, but wanted to just share and share that this is going to be my last meeting, and I've really appreciated all the time with you guys. So,
well, Leanna, we are wishing you the very best. We have had good times together. We have appreciated your ideas and your thoughts, and we wish you the best in whatever endeavors you take on as you move ahead. So enjoy the summer, and hope we still see you around and about.
Yes, I'll be around. I'm still included in Rotary, and
Okay.
see many of you there,
Okay.
which is so great. And certainly I'm committed in there. So appreciate it, and just I don't know what else to say. So
Stay in touch.
appreciate it. So thank you all. Take care. Look forward to hearing more from Lakewood Promise. We're in such a great place, and Brian, you've taken us and just made it so great the past few months and years that you've been here. So that's awesome.
Well, I also wanted to let everybody know that this is Andy Gernon's last meeting as well. She has sent her letter of resignation in, and we need to thank Andy and to remember all the good things that she has been able to accomplish over the many years that she has been a part of this group. She has been one of the most passionate people, one of the most diligent people, one of the most committed people that I have ever worked with. And it's hard to say goodbye, but not goodbye. And I hope that she stays involved as much as she can. And we just owe Andy a great deal of thanks and appreciation for her commitment that she's had for the city of Lakewood and the people living here. Any other comments?
So I want to say, Andy, it's nice to see you on here, and thank you so much for everything that you have done. And I also wanted to share with everyone that I have not submitted my resignation, but I've been on the board for 3 years. So you see somebody kind of eavesdropping in the background. This is Megan Dempsey. She is a community member and a colleague here at St. Clair, and she has interest in for me to pass the baton to her to be a representative for St. Clair. So she'll be putting in her application, and you'll enjoy getting to know her. She has a great sense of humor. She has children in the community as well, is very involved. So she's looking forward to this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from the board this morning?
I just want to say again, thank you to Leanna, and also to the person that I consider a matriarch of Lakewood, Andy, who tells it like it is. And I love that about you. And I look forward to ongoing advisement from you. And from the school district's perspective, I'm here until they kick me out. So I'm not resigning. They have to send me packing.
Well, thank goodness.
You never know, right? You never know. But I'll just repeat a couple of things I said last month around updates from the school district, really short. We will be having summer programs that will include both academic support, social emotional learning and instruction, as well as enrichment activities. Our goal is to support socially reintegrating our students. And so these will be in-person opportunities for our kiddos. And then when we start in the fall, we do expect 5 days a week in-person instruction. We will be within the parameters, safety parameters of what the DOH prescribes for COVID at the time, which right now is 3 feet in the classroom. And we will also provide a virtual option. We're hoping that's not a big group, but we will provide, at least for next year, a virtual option for kindergarten through 5th grade, as well as 6th grade through 12th grade. We believe the 6 through 12 will be it's an ALE, alternative learning environment. So it'll be Grad Alliance. And we're working with securing a vendor to support the kindergarten through 5th grade instruction. And we believe people want to get back to school, but there will still be an element of folks that feel like they want to maintain in a virtual world. So we'll provide that at least for 1 additional year to support us, as everybody said, kind of getting back to normal or our new normal. So that's it from the school district.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Well, if we don't have any other reports this morning,
I believe Andy was trying to speak, but she's muted.
Andy,
Well, I certainly want to thank you for all the nice comments. It's hard to lead this group, but I think it's time. My health is not good. Nothing that I've ever done has been done alone. It's all been done with all of you in collaboration. That's why I'm so committed to this work. Try to make it a better community. And I know that with your leadership, that will go forward. I was struck by how well the format that the city's doing with ARPA could be led by what we've done here already. Going forward, they just give that blueprint to the rest of the community and they've got their work plan. So thank you for your dedication. I did get to spend some time at Bev House last week, 10 days worth. And that's not fun in COVID, let me tell you, but it was okay. Some great people over there helping, and I would like to commend to you the new medical director. She's a great believer in collaboration and cooperation with the community, and I think you should make every effort to bring her in. Dr. Pasa Puletti, I believe is the way you say it. She's a wonderful person and would be a wonderful addition to the work that's being done here, because she came to Lakewood and specifically to serve an underserved community, a diverse community. So let's bring her expertise into this mix. Thank you, all of you, for all your hard work. If I may, I'll kind of drop by every now and then just to check on you, make sure you haven't gotten off the rails. And with that, I will say goodbye formally.
Andy, this is Mary. Andy, this is Mary Moss. I just want you to know how much we appreciate you. Your work will never be forgotten. We'll never forget you. And just know that we love you very much. And anytime you want to drop by, you just drop on by.
okay, Leanna has already left us. So with those wonderful, kind words from Mary, we'll bring our meeting to a close this morning, unless there is someone else who would like to say a few words. Okay, I think then we'll end with that, and we'll send Andy off with love from all of us and much appreciation from all of us. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, everyone.